Hey guys, it's Paradise, and with everyone enjoying the Monster Hunter Rise open beta, we're back with another quick and handy guide going over the new moves for each of the 14 weapons. So as before, we'll go over what they do, how to use them, and everything you need to know to get started with these weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds. We already have some on the channel now, and we're going to continue doing the rest of the weapons. So tell us below what you think of the new moves and which weapon you would like us to cover next. And drop a like and subscribe below for more Wilds every day. In this video, we'll be jumping into the switch. No, not that switch. This is the Switch Axe, or as connoisseurs call it, the Swag Axe. If versatility, impactful combos, and pure style is a priority for you, then the Switch Axe should be at the top of your list. In Monster Hunter Wilds, both of the Switch Axe's forms have been given new impactful tools that boost its responsiveness and situational reactivity. From new devastating moves to counters, offset attacks, and more, the Switch Axe is in one of the most fun states it's ever been in. Let's start off with the flashy and powerful new moves, the Full Release Slash and Unbridled Slash. Previously thought to be just a combo ender after the classic element discharge finisher, if you actually played the weapon for a bit, then you'll quickly find out these moves can be executed at any time during sword mode by pressing R2, triangle, and circle all together. These moves deal a ton of damage as you spin around, releasing fire explosions and slashes at the target. Focus mode really helps aim this move for the best results. Both iterations consume a large amount of switch gauge, so it's likely best to use this when your switch gauge is just about to run out, making the most use of the last pixels of the gauge for the most damage possible, and it ends you in axe mode anyway. If you are fully amped and the gauge is fully red, then you can do the more powerful version, the Full Release. You can do this at any time with R2, triangle, and circle together, or after an element discharge finisher by holding R2. This includes after the sword mode's Focus Strike element discharge finisher. If you aren't amped though, you can still do R2, triangle, circle in sword mode for the slightly shorter and weaker version, the Unbridled Slash. Interestingly, you can do this after element discharge finishers as before, but if you are amped, you can actually choose which version to go into with a press or hold of R2. Next up, we have the Switch Axe's new offset attack, giving you easy access to a panic button counter-style move while in axe mode. Pressing triangle and circle together will have you perform the offset rising slash, which if you connect it to an incoming monster's attack, they will get toppled, you'll dash forward with your hook slinger, and combo into either the follow-up morph slash with R2, or the heavy slam with triangle or circle, which also gives you power axe mode. And speaking of power axe mode, it has been changed in Wilds to now give you increased axe damage, but also increases the fill rate of the switch gauge while attacking. You can also gain this by doing your wild swing attack with circle, and then following up with triangle for a heavy slam, and in Wilds this only requires 2 wild swings instead of 3, and you can dodge out of it. The axe mode finisher of the Focus Strike also grants power axe mode, which we'll show off later. This is a more important mechanic in Monster Hunter Wilds because the switch gauge will no longer replenish automatically unless you sheath your weapon, so mid-combat you need to attack to regenerate it. The amp state once triggered also grants a little bit of switch gauge refill and powers up your sword hits with small fire explosions as before. The sword mode has also gained a very nice buff with its counter rising slash. Interestingly, this can be done at any time by just pressing R2 and triangle, prior to any combo or after most attacks. This has you ready for a second, and if a monster hits you during this time, you'll perform 2 attacks in a row, which you can follow up with all of your regular moves or go straight into Heavenward Flurry with circle. Zero Sum Discharge is also back, and you need to be in the amped state and then hold down triangle and circle next to a monster. This lets you latch onto the part you aim at, and you can rapidly press triangle to prolong the ticks of damage before releasing the final explosion and flying back through the air. Sadly, you can't follow this one up with the Full Release, as it has some heavy end lag. The focus mode is fantastic for the Switch Axe in Wilds. It makes it easier to hit high commitment moves like your heavy slams and full releases, and you have a good degree of directional aim even mid-animation. For example, you can turn very quickly before executing an element discharge to aim it much easier, but after you start an element discharge, you cannot turn it. Our Focus Assault is activated with L2 and R1 to do the Morph Combination, which is a pretty cool name, right? This can be used in both sword and axe mode and does a small slash forwards, but if you connect to a wound it goes crazy with wild swings. And you can freely morph in the middle of it with R2 to go into whichever one you prefer for the finisher. Staying in axe mode or morphing to it from sword mode will execute the Power Axe finisher. This is similar to Heavy Slam and grants you Power Axe mode. Staying in sword mode or switching to it though lets you execute the Element Discharge finisher. This seems to be the better option for pure damage, but does consume some switch gauge. You can even morph 2 times during the morph combination if for some reason you wanted to do that. The X mode's regular 3-step triangle combo now has the Spiral Burst Slash, which is great for refilling your switch gauge, so that's good to use. When mounted on a monster though, your weapon attacks will actually refill your switch gauge slightly, which is a great way to top up. If you do a weapon attack on a wound, you'll do your mount finisher, which plunges the sword mode blade into the monster, doing a quick zero-sum discharge style move, which explodes and destroys wounds for extra damage. When mounted on your Sacred though, you have your riding attack by mashing triangle, which swings your axe and builds up some switch gauge on hit. We also have our dismount attack with triangle and circle together, which has you jump off the Sacred for a quick attack followed up by a slam, although this doesn't grant Power Axe mode. You can also jump off your Sacred to gain some air and either press triangle for the jumping slash with the axe or R2 for the jumping morph slash, landing you in sword mode. Finally, we have the list of files that we know are in the game, including Power, Element, Poison, Paralysis, Dragon, and Exhaust. Now traditionally, exhaust damage also applies stun damage, meaning you can both exhaust and KO the monster, which I hope is still there in Wilds. So what do you think of all of these new moves for the Switch Axe? Tell us your favourite below, and what weapon you would like to see next. Make sure to drop a like though if you enjoyed this, and subscribe for more Wilds videos coming very, very soon.